Simon Ellison, are you ready? Please come next to me. Come to the stage. Thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very good.
Day for you.
Long day, but it was a lovely day. And nice to meet you, by the way. Is this your first time in Turkey?
No, I was here speaking 2 years ago.
2 years ago, you
Yeah,
were
yeah.
together with us?
Yes, I was.
I
Yes.
see. So
Yes.
how was the pandemic?
Survivable.
We survived.
We survived. We
Fortunately,
survived.
we survived.
Yeah, pretty
Thank you. You're
miserable.
the moderator of
I
this
am, yes,
session.
yes.
And we're going to listen to you.
I hope so.
Please have a
Okay.
seat. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Hotel Group kurucu başkanı Simon Ellison 2 sene önce de burada bizimle birlikteymiş. İlk seferim değil İstanbul'da, Türkiye'de diyor. Tabii Türkiye turizm açısından o kadar önemli bir destinasyon ki, değil mi Yasemin Hanım? Burada bizimle beraber olanların ilk defa burada olması çok da söz konusu değil. Gabriel Najenson, Glow Glamping Hospitality kurucu ortağı. Please come next to us. How are you? Thank you for coming. Pleasure to meet you too. Angelique Moscatelli, SAS Merida France Başkanı kendisi. Hoş geldiniz. How are you? You look fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and you too. Thank you for coming. Please have a seat. Ve Carlos Santos, Ethos Asset Management'ın CEO'su. Hi, how are you? I'm good too. Please have a seat. Ve Barış Tunçsiper, kıdemli yatırım uzmanı IFC. Hoş geldiniz efendim. Nasılsınız? Sizin de elinizi sıkalım.
Sağ olun, teşekkür ederim.
Buyurunuz efendim. If you're ready.
We're ready, I think.
Then
We're ready as we'll
the
ever
stage is
be.
yours.
So we have some slides. I don't know if they're going to appear, but we wanted to talk a little bit. I think what we'll do is get each of the panelists to introduce themselves just a little bit, so you know who they are and what they do. We're then going to talk about how they finance projects. We're then going to talk about why they're interested in Turkey. We may spend a minute or two on some obstacles to investing in Turkey. And then we'll wrap up a little bit with the kind of process they want to see. We did decide at the beginning that we want to be very honest, open, straightforward. Because if we only tell you how wonderful everything is, we just repeat what everybody said already this morning. So we do actually want to have a proper open debate. So what I'm going to do is get the panelists in this order, starting ladies first, just to say a little bit about their background so you know where they're coming from. Not an advert, just some background.
Yeah.
Angelique.
So good afternoon. I'm Angelique Moscatelli. I'm the president of Merida France. We have been building hotels, managing hotels, owning hotels, and giving hotels to different operators like IHG, Group Accor, etc. for more than 80 years. So we are a potential investor here in Turkey. Our strategy is to diversify and to shop around the Mediterranean coast. So we would like to not to put all our eggs in the same basket. So we start to look around, and we consider Turkey. Our expertise is really to work with governments and local authorities, because we build hotels mainly in the new touristic areas. In France, mainly in France, in the south of Europe. And now the challenge is really to go more eastern, so in Asia, and for sure, Turkey is the obligatory next step where we'd like to invest.
Okay, thanks, Angelique. Gabriel.
So I'm Gabriel Najensen. I'm the co-founder of Glow Glamping Hospitality. We plan, develop, and operate alternative resorts and unique accommodation in Israel, and now expanding to Europe and hopefully to Turkey. We try to bring in an experience-driven hospitality world that includes both gastronomy, the experiences that one can have around the resorts and in the resorts, while creating and bringing people back to nature, connecting them to communities, one to other, and trying to revolutionize the world of hotels, especially in the 4- and 5-star level. And we come from 10 years of experience in the travel world, in the tailor-made world, And we have existed for 3 years, and we're very keen in hearing and listening to more and more options and opportunities in Turkey, especially in Cappadocia and regions that have either unique beach resorts or are a bit off the beaten path. So we're looking for the next Bodrum, and we've raised our own private equity. So we are looking into creating and bringing closer what it is today Turkey as an intercontinental bridge and a global player in the travel market. And this is why we are thrilled to be here with you.
Thank you, Gabriel. Carlos.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carlos Santos. I'm CEO and founder of Itus Asset Management. Itus is a US-based company, a private investment company, and what we do is we invest on the form of debt, right? I mean, we provide financing. I mean, the major difference that we have for the normal investors of debt, I would tell simplistically, that is the model of not only source of funding, but the collateralization of our investment, right? In the simplistic way, instead of do what a normal bank or a normal fund do, that raise capital in the market, put a markup, and fund the project, what we do is project financing, set aside, pushing our funds from the trading piece, because in fact, all of our funding comes from financial trading, because in 2012, we developed algorithm of trading securities that were released to major funds like Goldman Sachs or Bridgewater, and during a couple of years, we were doing asset management to them, roughly $300 billion under management in that time, and through the profits accumulated, we start to invest in project finance. Today we are in 72 countries. I mean, we have a subsidiary in Turkey since last year. And one of the major points, the reasons that we came to Turkey, naturally is, I mean, related with a position in the map, but I would tell that we are trying to create in Turkey, and last year was pretty successful on that, a financial hub to explore emergency markets like Africa or South America or even Asia. Because like all of you know, I mean, the cross-border laws year after year are staying more complex. Europe and the US are closing the doors for the banking system in terms of emergency markets, and Turkey can have a very significant word to tell on that, and this is why we are in Turkey since last year. We started a couple of investments, and one of the areas that we invest was in fact in real estate in tourism with hotels. We have mainly two other sectors in our pipeline, that is infrastructure per se. When you talk about ports, hospitals, airports, or the energy part too. We are pretty strong on energy. That is, I would tell in Turkey, a little controversial subject, but we believe that on the next 4 years can be a significant potential sector to be in. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Barış.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Barış Tunspar, and I am Senior Investment Officer at the International Finance Corporation, which is a part of the World Bank Group. It's a private arm. And, well, we have been here in Turkey for the last 50 plus years, and we do basically developmental banking. And at the moment, we have, for example, invested about $23 billion in 2021. Part of it's in tourism, and we have also a portfolio of about $700 million in outstanding loans to tourism companies. Tourism is important for us because it has high developmental impact. It is a very important part of the business ecosystem that drives business forward. And we also have, of course, renewed interest in the tourism sector together with the effects of COVID-19 and its detrimental effects to the tourism sector and, of course, the whole supply chain. And happy to be here and discuss this further.
Thank you. And from my background, I run Hoftel, which I think you heard in the introduction, is a global network of hotel real estate investors. We have about 75 member companies controlling about $100 billion of hotels. So we have a good global perspective and overview. And one of the things that I found very interesting talking to the panel was the structure of deals they've been able to put together involving significantly higher proportions of debt than I'd expected, and also some government subsidies. So again, maybe this will focus on Angelique and Carlos. I mean, Angelique, you've managed to get really high levels of gearing and some great help from governments and local governments, I guess, in France.
Yeah, sure. I mean, do we have access? I mean,
The
can we
slide
show the
is-
slides for
Can
the
we have
audience
that
as well?
first
Yeah.
slide, structure financing?
I think
There
maybe,
you go. Yep,
maybe
it's up.
it would be
It's up.
easier for... Yeah,
Yeah, it's down there too. So.
Well, for sure, our approach is very humble. I mean, we have a lot to learn from you, and we need you if if we'd like to invest here. So we have a very humble approach. We need you. We need your support. We need your help. But basically, for sure, until now, our strategy was it was only our personal contribution. We invest from 10 million to 100 million per project. So basically, we build hotels, we own them, we manage them, or we give them to different operators to manage. So basically, until now, we never go for external loans. It's a mistake or not, but I like to sleep well at night. So now it's another step. We have a succession plan. So it means that I would go out for, very recently, I went out for different bank loans. And what I'm trying to say in this slide is mainly what I'm used to raise in terms of funds. And it was surprising because the direction, your reaction was quite, surprising.
Yeah, because I mean, we're used to seeing maybe 50 to 60% loan to project cost.
Yeah.
And
So,
you were getting much more.
Exactly. In France, I tell you the situation in France because I can't see any other French potential investors in the audience. But what we're used to have in France, basically, of course, you have to be a key actor in France, in hotel business, to have access to bank loans. But I think it's the same thing everywhere. But basically, the minimum the bank are asking is 20 to 30% of private equities. It can be your personal money, or it can be crowdfunding, whatever, to get to cheap debt up to 80 or 70%. That's the normal way of doing business. For us, since we have been in the business for a long time, usually we get 10% of the total amount meaning land and construction. So 10% of private equities, which give us so cheap debt, bank loans of 90%. Until now, and the interest rate that we have until now, it's 1%, knowing that we don't pay anything during the construction. It can be 2 years or 3 years in terms of construction, we don't pay anything. And then the loan would be within 15 to 18 years. So I was so kidding, joking with Simon. I said, you know, I'm still complaining with my bankers, but I realize that everywhere in the world, when I shop around, I see that I'm very lucky. So I said to Simon, so maybe I will go back to France, and at the end of the day, I will give a big hug to my bankers. But actually, talking with other panelists, it seems that it's not it's not
unique.
Yeah,
not
unique.
Right.
So tell me
Carlos,
more
you're
about that.
providing debt at very remarkable levels
Right.
as well.
I mean, like I was telling in the beginning, you know, I mean, when we invest, we only invest that. We never take any equity on the deal. And I would tell that, and I told in the beginning about the collateral part, right? And this is practically the key because, of course, that I will charge proportionally to my exposition. And one of the reasons that, you know, when you go to a bank, and I mean, here in Turkey, it's pretty normal, it's difficult to raise capital in a bank, right? I mean, you go to the bank, you need to give your asset, you need to give receivables, you need to give your shares, and in the end, I mean, you have 200% collateral on the table. I mean, this is pretty complicated for a project promoter, right? Because you stay suffocated with interest rates on 19 or 20%, a couple of months ago, 29%, right? I mean, when we go to the market and when we invest, we try exactly to do this migration of the exposition of our investment. That means what? I mean, look to it and see, we are today in 72 countries. We have projects, for example, in real estate, in tourism, in hotels, in Sri Lanka, or, I mean, South Sudan, or in Brazil, right? I mean, it's pretty difficult if I want to, in the end of the day, execute and stay with the collateral in my hands, how I will place a hotel in South Sudan, what I know about the market, right? This is not our capacity or expertise. And we saw what happened, for example, in US in 2008, right? And this was a moment that when we look to investment, we don't want this type of collateral. What we want is a company that has liquidity, right? Is capable to generate the cash flow to repay all of the debt structure. With that said, when we go to the market, the first request that we would do is the client needs to have a certain percentage of my investment. For example, for a $100 million deal, right? Someone wants to do a hotel and needs $100 million. One of the first requests is he needs to have at least 20% of the investment. That means I'm available to provide the 100 million as much as you have 20 million in cash available. Of course, that 20 million, will be given to us in form of guarantee. It can be a bank guarantee, right? And this is what allow me to, in a simplistic way, don't stay exposed to the country risk or to even the operational risk, but in fact to the banking risk, because if you don't pay me, who needs to pay me is your bank, not you. And this is naturally a mitigator of risk that allows us to go to the market, without taking any equity, and with normally minimum maturities of 12 years old. With 12 years, we go directly to the investment with grace periods, full grace period of 3 years. When I talk full grace, I'm talking about no principal, no interest, no compounding power. That means you will pay the interest times the outstanding amount of the debt. Of course, we can, in some circumstances, when we go to infrastructure, for example, we finished last year a port in Mozambique that is, a $400 million deal. In a situation like that, we extend the maturities up to 20 years because, the capacity to repay, it's much lower. But in fact, in a very significant way, we can provide capital pretty below the market in emergency markets. Our interest rate will fluctuate between 1% up to maximums of 3%. We are capable to go in local currency. And this is a pretty significant advantage in a market like Turkey, right? Because you cannot never go to 3% in local currency, right? And the reason is because we are able to hedge, in a simplistic way, with a put option and a call option, cover the full risk that we have in investment. And in that case, the interesting point that we have here is Ethos is able to, in a simplistic way, bring to Turkey and to emerging markets similar situations that you can face in very developed financial markets like France, right? And this is, I believe, a pretty interesting point for who is a project promoter that wants to implement a new hotel, for example, in Turkey. And in a simplistic way as that.
So can I, Badish, you obviously you're focused on emerging markets. Presumably you're not lending 80 to 90%, more like 50, 60 for a new project?
No, it actually depends very much on two things. One, of course, is the financial aspect, and the other one is, as we're a developmental institution, it's the developmental aspect. From a financial aspect, it can vary a great deal. With whom are we working? Who is the sponsor? What is the track record? What are risks specific to the investment? Where is the investment? So that will actually determine what type of terms we are able to deliver. These terms, of course, are long-term, with grace, 8 years, 10 years, depending on the region, and of course at competitive market rates, let's say. Right. But it is important to say that the sponsor is more important than anything at the end of the day. Yeah. The size, the diversity of the investment, is it grouped in a country, is it spread around the globe so that it can somehow take a blow or two, like from COVID and so forth. So these are important aspects when we set the terms in terms of pricing, in terms of tenor and so forth. And of course the second thing is, sustainability is a big thing. The previous panelists have pointed this rightly out, also from the Sustainable Developmental Goals perspective. We have to find an angle. We have to actually impose that angle now as a sector to our investments. And this does not only have to be in terms of environment, which is big. Of course, LEED certification, EDGE certification, these are things which we look for and which makes processing easier, which makes the terms more favorable sometimes, definitely. But also other things that are involved in sustainability, like gender equality, for example, and other aspects of sustainability, like corporate governance. These are important aspects which we look into when assessing an investment.
Right, okay. So that's the debt stack, equity stack. So Gabriel, at the moment you're focused on the equity. tell us a little bit about your equity raise, what returns you're looking for, and so on.
So first I would like to add two things. One of them is that when Carlos presented us with his concept of the company, we were all blown out, and this room seems very calm. So I think you need to have a better understanding of that. And secondly, I would like to add about our financial model and structure, that we are looking for properties that are, like I said, off the beaten path. So they're in the periphery area, meaning that the cost of the property is lower, and our development time is much, much faster than the traditional hotels. So we can actually develop a hotel between 6 to 18 months, meaning higher IRRs, and eventually bringing the value of the property much higher in a very fast rate, eventually creating a very, very valuable deal. And that is what we do when we come into a new place, as like mentioned in Israel and now in Europe. And about our structure, about equity, like I said, we've teamed up with a very strong and powerful travel conglomerate. And now as we're expanding, we've actually shared our equity with them. And now we are looking for strong and local partners that are stable, that we can work with for years. We are looking for assistance from the local and regional councils and the government, as we're looking to help in each region that we plan. We do a tailor-make concept for the resort according to its geographical location, the cultural environment, and the needs of the regions. So if more, let's say, wellness and sports activities are required, that's what we bring in. We search the villages around us, and we recruit the same people to work with us. And by doing so, we're actually helping out both on the sustainable level and trying to bring in nature for the people and make nature feel like home. But on the same side, keep nature and help preserve it for the generations to come. So regarding that, I think this is where the world of hospitality is going to. Our way of approach is learning from traditional hotellery, but also bringing in the future of innovation and technology while preserving the human contact and the man-to-man experience, while creating an environment that allows it. And I spoke to Angelica earlier, and she told me that she hates camping, but she loves nature. And I told her that glamping is just like having camping at a 5-star hotel with your own gourmet meal at the end of the day. And what's good about it is that it brings the future generation, our children, this experience that has quite been lost from this world. And that we think that it brings an added value both in nature and then when the people return to their homes. And we thrive on the weekdays, where most hotels actually have difficulties in filling up the occupancy. We bring in, when we work highly on the B2B market, and we bring in companies for offsites, and the same CEOs that comes with this company on a Monday would return on the weekday, and we would also create a co-working space for him to be able to work. And bringing that holistic approach, I think, promotes industries and economies, and that is what we're looking to achieve when we choose a destination.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to the financing side for a minute. So you talked about working with local authorities. Angelique, you've had a lot of success with local authorities, even getting them to give you cash contributions to the build. Last point on the equity stack and the capital stack. But that's right, yeah, you've actually been having some cash from local authorities.
Yeah, as I said before, our expertise is really to be partner with governments and local authorities to create new touristic zones, new touristic areas. That's what we're doing right now in Nice, in Montpellier, in Courchevel. So basically, for sure, I mean, governments, they have a big picture, and we follow them. We are partners, and for sure we deliver. So basically, they have economic benefits. So yes, until now, I mean, when they develop new eco valley or new technological areas or new touristic areas, well, we are partners to build hotels when they build offices or shopping malls, but we build hotels. And yes, it seems very surprising, but for us, that's the way we work with them. They give us the private, they don't give us, they lend us private equities for the time of the construction, and then 2 years after we deliver the hotel, when we reach the stabilized year, so that we give it back. But basically, it's 0% interest rate. Why? Because they think in long-term benefit, because they are sure that we will deliver, and they are sure that we will be there, I mean, for the next 20 years.
Right.
And again, we are not an investment fund, so we have more a long-term strategy. We build and we keep and we manage them. So it's not a financial product. It's really we work and we will build with our heart, and we keep them. That's why, I mean, we partner a lot with local authorities and governments.
Okay, fair enough. So let's take this to Turkey specifically. We've heard what you do and how you do it. Coming into Turkey, I mean, we were going to talk a bit about all the advantages of Turkey. You know, the airline, the central location between Europe and Asia, the food, the mountains, the beaches, and then we realized we've heard all that today. You know it anyway. So that doesn't add much. So what we talked about a bit was some of the specific advantages that this group of people see in the Turkish market. And I'm going to start with Carlos, perhaps. I mean, your model is very much about strength of banks because that's the covenant you work on.
Right.
And maybe, I mean, this is a hidden advantage of Turkey in a way, which I think most of the market around the world doesn't understand. So, Carlos, explain why the Turkish banking system is so good for you.
It's a very interesting question, even the prism that you are trying to push to us, Simon, because, you know, we create our subsidiary in Turkey last year, right, in February. And I mean, we are a USA-based investment company, right? And in that time, a couple of newspapers in US start to put questions to me that was, I mean, why are you going to Turkey? I mean, why Turkey? I mean, how can you go in COVID situation with the lira, I mean, with a massive fluctuation, probably one of the worst ones in the story of Turkey, what are you doing in Turkey? You know, and during the last 6 years, we were clearly understanding, and like you understood in the beginning, our model is based on receive a guarantee, a bank guarantee from a bank, right? That is our collateral in investment. If I'm investing in Brazil, I need to receive from my client in Brazil a guarantee that can be received here or in any part of the world. And the question that was clear that with the increase of the cross-border loss complexity, right, and anticipating situations like COVID, right, this was clearly showing us that banks will start in US and Europe, and we saw, for example, with Brexit, closing the doors to emergency markets, right? I mean, any USA bank wants exposition to a bank in Africa now, or even for a South American bank. And when you start to look to the financial system in Turkey, all the world tells how bad it is, right? Because start to talk about lira. But this is in fact wrong, right? And it's wrong because during these last 6 years, like I told, I was going to Dubai, coming here to decide between these two geographies what was the right place to be, when we clearly understood that was here. And the reason that is here is because you need to look to a financial system that, when you look, for example, to the top 5 banks, right, and you look to the rating of these banks, you will see in an extraordinary way that their, I mean, rating, right, it's better, it's higher than if you compare with Portugal or Spain or France or even Greece or Italy. And the world doesn't think on that, right? Because think, okay, if it's Europe, it's pretty stable. But the truth is that it is true that in 2002, and the majority of you remember for sure very well, you have a massive crisis on the banking system, right? 23 or 24 banks bankrupt. But after that, the reconstruction that happened from the financial system brings a stability to the market that to us is pretty important. We are comfortable to have our money here. And we are comfortable more than bring the money to invest local, not only invest local, but worldwide. I was telling that we went pretty slow on the market, even because, you know, the Turkish market is a market that, in a cultural way, needs a relationship, right, that is developed. But international, roughly we invest here $50 million last year in 5 major projects. But worldwide, through Turkey, receiving guarantees here and passing the capital here, we passed $400 million investment worldwide. And these reflect exactly this vision that is the market, the financial market is stable to us. And I think, you know, that one thing that is important to give value and try to create a narrative around this, the Turkish market doesn't realize this competitive advantage, and that this can be done. Additionally to that, our market is pre-related with the receive a financial guarantee, right? A bank guarantee. And like all the commodity trading in the world depend of a guarantee, right? A bank guarantee. No vessel go to the ocean with oil if the buyer doesn't put a bank guarantee. And you are a country with 8,000 years of story being a worldwide platform of trading, right? And this is why, when I go to any bank here, they understand what we're talking. They understand the financial instruments. They understand the guarantees. Situation that when you enter in US doesn't happen because our internal consumption country, right? And this is what needs to be, I think, highlighted and create a narrative around to have the capacity to attract capital. Because I remember to need to convince my board of directors that this was stable, because the image is not stable, but in fact it is, and I think that this is, I would tell, a little outside of the box idea that on that classic image of Turkey doesn't exist, but in fact exists.
Okay, good. Now, Angelique, you had 2 points that were particularly attractive for you in Turkey, one about seasonality, one about guest mix. So maybe you can outline that, because that was also interesting and unexpected in a way.
Yeah. Well, as hotel owners and hotel investors and builders, I think I have a very pragmatic approach. And in the audience, if there are builders and hotels owners and hotels investors, you would understand it immediately. I saw 3 points in the Turkish market. The first one is the complementary with our seasonal assets. Because, for instance, we invest in ski resorts, so it means that, we have to find another ski resort for our staff and all the other assets. So basically, until now, we look around the Mediterranean coast, and that's the second point. In Courchevel, for instance, we invest in Courchevel. Our main customers are Russians. And for the moment, Russians are not allowed to enter, for the moment, during the summer, they're not allowed to enter Cyprus or Malta. They're allowed to enter Dubai and Turkey. So at the end of the day, that's the destination that we have to consider, even if you already have some, a lot of Russian guests. But I'm sure that it's a huge market, potential market for you and for us, and that's what we're looking at that too. And another point is very important for us as a hotel builder is also the high quality in terms of construction. We in France, we work a lot with Turkish companies in terms of construction. You are very good in construction. And especially when we come to do facade, we take Turkish companies because you are simply excellent for that. And same thing for marbles. We ship a lot of tons of marbles from Turkey. You have the most beautiful marbles at a very good price. And so we partner with some Turkish companies here for tiles, for marbles, for linens. Basically, we're not here to compete with hotel investor here or hotel builders here. On the contrary, we rather see that like a partnership. We're here to learn, we're here to partner, and it's a kind of win-win strategy because for sure, we try to diversify our assets, and on the contrary, and on the reciprocal way, if we can help hotel investors here to open up their market in France or in south of Europe. That's a win-win partnership that we are looking for. So basically, we need your construction materials, construction experience, and in return, if we can bring some new markets, we can open new markets for you. That's a win-win partnership that we're looking for when we come here today.
And Gabriel, for you, you could be looking at the Sierra Nevada in Spain, you could be looking at the mountains of Ras Al Khaimah. Why Cappadocia? What's the reason?
So first of all, I think without further ado and praising everything that was mentioned here.
Yeah, we don't have to go over all that.
Yeah.
So Cappadocia is a destination that is booming right now in the world. It has the type of landscape we're looking for, which is the desert vibe. experience level there are very high with all the different travel and tours that one can do with the hot air balloons that everyone knows from the pictures. And it's a place where we see a connection to the ancient world of Turkey as well, with the monasteries and the monks. And if we see glamping as something that existed from the age of time, from the general Romans to the Mongols, all the way to the sultans, that when they lived their good life on the roads, that is the way they used to camp. And we see Cappadocia and also some of the natural treasures that Turkey still hides and are still in a virgin type of status. We see our way of developing them while preserving them. Places like the Butterfly Valley and the Kars Peninsula that are less known to the European and the US markets.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was amazed. I went to see a friend, Trevor, half an hour's drive from here, and drove through the Belgrade forest. And it's beautiful, and it's just like 15 minutes north of Istanbul, and the world tourist market doesn't even know it's there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like little suburbs like Balat that are growing and becoming interesting. So I think Turkey still has a lot more effort to make in promoting. I mean, Badish, isn't this market a bit too advanced for IFC now?
It's definitely very developed, and it's one of the more developed sectors in Turkey.
Yeah.
So finding meaningful impact investments is, of course, a lot more challenging than, for example, our investment in 3B in Rwanda, for example, which is a game changer there, or our investments in Iraq and so forth. But not to say this, like I said, there is a transition into greener hotels, more sustainable hotels, where gender inclusivity is more of an issue, not only at the service level, but also at the management level, for example, which is important for us. So we are indeed interested in the Turkish market with the right sponsors that will provide the necessary impact. I think one also has to point out one other important advantage of Turkey is that the Turkish tourism industry has turned out to be very resilient. If you think about the numerous crises which it underwent, COVID being the last one, I mean, you would expect that the Ukrainian-Russian situation at the moment would be detrimental, but the ecosystem in Turkey somehow shifted from a tourist inflow from that region and diversified into Middle East, into Eastern Europe. So there's a very advanced ecosystem that provides resilience for the sector in general, and which bodes well for investment in general.
Okay, well that's lots of positivity and lots of reasons you might not have heard before. Let's talk about some things that still need to be done. I mean, I was having the chat with Carlos before the session that, I think, Istanbul is an amazing hub between East and West and has the advantage that if you're flying from Asia to Europe, you get a proper night's sleep because it's that bit further away from Asia than Dubai. So that's good. On the other hand, if you want people to use it as a transit destination and do the short stays that, for example, Dubai has become very, very good at, my own view is Istanbul really needs to make an effort with the infrastructure. Because, I mean, I was here for the weekend and, there is public transport, but it's not particularly joined up. There's the metro and the trams and the boats and the buses. And if you're a tourist, you don't really know how it intersects. You can't get a taxi for love nor money, and Uber doesn't really work. At least you can't get an Uber. So I think there's a bit more work to do there because you need to make it much more friction-free if you want people to stop for the weekend and therefore pick Istanbul, which to my mind is honestly a little more interesting than Dubai or Abu Dhabi or Qatar. I mean, I'd rather be in Istanbul, but I don't want to have to wait 3 hours to get a taxi and have to go for a drink at the Swiss Hotel first. Nothing wrong with the Swiss Hotel. We're all going there for a drink later, but it wasn't the plan for the evening. So that's kind of one thing that I think still needs more work. Do any of you guys have suggestions, things that Turkey could do? Because otherwise, it's lovely to praise, but it doesn't add any value. So can we add any value on the panel? Can we think of other things that we'd like to see done, change, additions?
I can point one that we talked when you were talking this with me. It's pretty normal. I mean, do venues like that, right? All the world do venues like that and talk, and everybody wants out to attract money, right? We want money. We need money to do investments. But the truth is, what will we do to attract the capital, right? And this is a pre-European way to be in business, right? What I will point here like a problem. And I'm European, right? I'm Portuguese. I born in Portugal, and we face exactly the same problem. I mean, one of the reasons that U.S. is a worldwide potential, right, is the financial system, right? You go is a country in the world with more banks or financial institutions, and that the regulation is in so flexible that you can be an investor of capital, you can be a debtor investor, you can be a mezzanine investor. The flow of capital, it's pretty easier. I mean, the money can come, can go, and you don't have a taxation per flow of capital. In Turkey, you know, we face, for example, directly a problem with that. You know, we talk always about stability, right? Political stability. It doesn't matter if it's right or left, right? It matters, in fact, the stability and the capacity to predict what will be tomorrow the taxation, what will be tomorrow how to invest. And when we arrive in Turkey, right, we are full debt. We don't take any equity. When we start to close a couple of deals, right, with the biggest, companies in this country, that if I name the names, you will know, all of you. When we start to deal and push our lawyers to the table, we realize we cannot close the deal. Because in Turkey, only banks can provide debt. And immediately I start to think, and like I told you, we have investment in South Sudan. In South Sudan, I can invest in debt or capital. But here, if I want to provide capital, I need to have shares. But I don't want the shares because it's not my business. My business is provide a loan. And you see that the regulation, is complex in the point that, in the end of the day, it's any constitution tells you need to be free to decide if you want what you want to do, right? But in fact, in Turkey, the regulation oblige you to, prioritize being investor of capital. And this is not positive in the moment of attract capital. And of course, with that said, one of the things that I believe that is critical in the position of investor, I would tell that it is exactly the liberalization of this right of investment, no matter what. Of course, that if you are an investor, you need to be exposed to a certain level of regulation, but you cannot create, and forgive me for the word, but a little monopoly on the hands of the banks that in the end of the day, in fact, they are pretty strong on the consumption side, but not on the investment side. And in the end of the day, this shows the difference between mainly, I would tell, common law jurisdictions and call law, because in the end of the day, what happens is you don't have investment, but you have more focus on the consumption. It's pretty easy to go to a bank here and take a loan, a mortgage, right, for a house, but it's not easier to take a loan to do a hotel. And this is, of course, pretty problematic, right? And with that said, I would tell that this is something that I would really appreciate to see that change, because I'm pretty sure that this will allow more capital to come and to stay. And one point that is interesting, and that if this was possible, you have advantage on that is, like, you have the possibility, I can have dollars here, I don't need to put my money in lira, right? And now, with a pretty interesting mechanism, you can even have lira and be protected for that, but the point is, a lot of countries in the world cannot give that, right? If, for example, you go to South America, in Brazil, you cannot have dollar account, but here you can. In that case, I think that you have pretty much antagonism in terms of, in certain point, the facilitating, that allow you to come with the capital, but after you have a couple of points that block you to do it, And in that side, I would tell that this is a major point that, in the beginning, stop my investment.
I think I'm told we're out of time, is that right? Yeah, we're out of time, guys. I'm sorry we haven't got to the last bit, but you all love to talk and you're all very interesting. So thank you for that. Thank you all for coming along to this. I hope you got a few insights out of the session. Thank you.
I'm here. I'm back. Thank you for this wonderful panel. Thank you for this session. It was really wonderful.